Carl and Damon here from Brrraains A Head-Banging Life, gbhbl.com for short. And it's they made what into a TV series? Castlevania Season 2, Episode 1, titled War Council. Let's be honest, this is where the show fully gets started. We had our 4 episodes of Season 1. Go watch our videos on those where we introduced all the major players. We introduced Dracula and Lisa. We were introduced to Trevor Belmont. We were introduced to Cypher, and I'm not saying her last name, and we were introduced to Alucard. The story was set up, Dracula wanting vengeance, the destruction of humanity because of the murder of his wife, who had humanized him to a certain degree, was transforming him from a vampire into something more human to make him love, feel and care. But religion stepped in, accused her of being a witch and burned her. Now Dracula wants the destruction of mankind. That is where we started with, that's what we did, and of course Trevor Belmont, the Belmont family, had been fighting Dracula throughout the ages, but had been accused of heresy by the church as well, and pretty much been wiped out from the planet, leaving alone Trevor Belmont to be a drunk, obnoxious, rude fool, but one with heart, and you know, the Belmont in him, he almost can't help it.
Yeah, he still has that want to protect mode. Yeah. It's
a Belmont thing. Of course, Cypher is a magician, a speaker, who is now hooked up with Trevor to help him hopefully take down Dracula, and they both found the sleeping soldier, which was Alucard, in a crypt, having put himself there to recover from wounds he suffered at the hands of Dracula when he tried to stop Dracula initially from enacting his mad plan. Of course, Alucard is the half vampire, half human Dampier of Dracula and Lisa, and that was our setup. And it was a great opener, but I was very excited to start Season 2, as if, no doubt if you watch them and know them, you would be, to want us to get to that stage, because this is where the story fully starts.
Definitely was, and I was excited to watch this.
Indeed, indeed. And we begin in January 1475 with that beautiful animation. I love how this show looks.
It is.
It's a flashback to Wallachia, specifically Lupa Village, the home of Lisa, Dracula's wife, voiced by Emily Swallow. She's helping an elderly woman with a cough who remarks about Lisa's wedding ring. Nice little hint back here. Remember, Lisa claims her husband is travelling and leaves the room. In a lab, she washes her hands, consults a book and thinks of Vlad, Dracula, as she looks at his picture in a pendant. She then brings the older woman a mixture and they discuss some of the older ways of cures and remedies. So, you know, this is a reminder about Lisa's more forward-thinking medicine aspects that would get her in trouble. Lisa's more modern ideas actually surprised the woman, but she does appear to be grateful. It's a nice scene. A reminder that Lisa's a healer. She calls her Dr. Tepish, you know, which was a cool touch. But on her way out, Lisa finds she has some new guests. And if you remember this motherfucker, it's the Bishop and his men. The Bishop being voiced by Matt Frewer. The Bishop calmly asks her about her work. She answers, says who she is, and then he sends his men in to ransack the place. Lisa obviously is pretty confused. That is until the Bishop calls her work Satan's tools. You're like, ah, yes, this nonsense. Heresy! Heresy! You can't do this. There's a great scene when, I can't remember what the device is, but it's the mixer that spins them round. That activates, and one of the men, it shows us how thick and how pig-headed and stupid they are. They don't listen to Lisa for a second, and he freaks out, thinking it's Satan and stuff like that. After seeing all that, the Bishop orders men to set a fire while Lisa, of course, tries to defend her science. But Lisa is arrested and is set to be tried before the Inquisition. And we know how that turned out. But in a generally, just a reminder about, where humans are the worst.
Do you know, it's crazy, man, because if history was true about the Salem burnings and like, man,
there was truth to that. There's obviously fantasy, but there is truth elements of this.
I mean, watching this scene now, it's like, it's right now in this time, it's like madness, like absolutely pure madness.
Medicine was mad full stop back then. What we were able to do, whether it was banging holes in the heads to cure headaches, elements like that. You know, you forget that penicillin. You know, penicillin hasn't been around since goddamn forever. There's all these elements that, you know, that's science. It changes, adapts, it learns. But humanity, and what a reminder of humanity being our absolute worst is because I don't know. Did you catch this? It's very just quietly said and briefly, but the Bishop reveals quietly that it was the old woman that grassed Lisa up. So he says to one of his men about going to thank her, and obviously she'd gone to the Bishop and said like, "Oh, this woman has got all these devices and stuff like that."
I didn't realise it was her. I know you mentioned someone, but I didn't realise it was that a woman.
Yeah, that's what I think he was. I think he was referencing her because why would he reference anyone else?
That sucks even worse.
Which is really bad if you think about it, because you go back to the first episode when Vlad Dracula came to find Lisa's burnt home, and it's that same old woman being all apologetic, maybe because she feels guilty.
I didn't put the connection.
Dracula, she's really lucky she did not reveal, because I'm pretty sure she'd have been dead right there and then.
Ripped apart, yeah.
Lisa tries to tell the bishop, I love this scene, that he will bring about a great darkness on himself, like, don't do this, don't do that. But of course he just thinks she's in league with Satan and stuff like that. But we know she's kind of calling out to Dracula to not, like, punish him and all that. He didn't listen, Lisa!
Nope.
The house is then wrecked and burned to the ground. We cut to present time as Dracula sits in front of a fire. A reminder that Dracula is voiced by Graham McTavish. He gets up and goes to his throne room where a group of people are waiting. Some are human, some are vampires, and plenty of like dark minion-looking people. It's a war council, Dracula's war council, made up of vampire overlords from across the world. And Dracula announces his intentions to raise Wallachia and give it to the Night Hordes. Now, we should note here, I think we should do it, Dracula is being voiced in a certain way here, and his demeanour as well. I'm going to try and set how he often just sits. You immediately get the impression he's tired.
Tired, depressed.
Exhausted, just not really caring that much. And he will say things as this series goes on that confirms that to a level of degree. But you never get the impression this isn't... It might be war, but it's not that kind of war. He's not excited. He's not interested. I guess that's why he's kind of put this war council together. He then asks the two humans, who are a pair of necromancers named Hector and Isaac, to present him with the plans for the next steps. So Theo James voices Hector, and I'm going to try to say his name. Aditcumbo McCormack as Isaac. Them being called, though, outrages a Norse vampire, kind of Norse-looking guy, named Godbrand, who's voiced by Peter Stormare.
This guy's so annoying, man. So
really?
It's annoying because it reminds me of like the arrogant, outspoken one.
That's what he is, though. Exactly that.
Yeah.
He's the idiot. He is the thick one that speaks before he thinks and is easily manipulated. He is that. Dracula defends his choice by pointing out the pair aren't driven by thirst, and the hatred of their own kind makes them more trustworthy. I do like that. Like, okay, they're not going to be, they're not looking at humanity in this aspect.
That's food,
You're looking at them as food and cattle and stuff like that. These two just want to wipe them off the face, and the fact that they're humans who want to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
They might be thinking, well, why would they feel this way? We will get more of an explanation as it goes on. I don't necessarily know if a lot of it fits as well, but I do think over a longer period of time, these characters will become quite important.
I think both their stories are very different, though.
They are different people.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And again, that will continue to show itself as the season plays out and into season 3 and 4. Dracula plans to wipe humanity out completely, and they still stand with him. That's what he's kind of almost surprised at.
Yes.
You know? Dracula leaves, and Godbrand rants and raves as Hector and Isaac go to see Dracula. And this is where you realise Godbrand is a bit of an idiot and a bit of a wild animal, almost. In Dracula's private room, the pair query why he chose them to lead his war. And he talks to them about their understanding humanity's ills and why it is necessary to destroy them all. Hector wonders about the vampire lords obeying him, and Dracula points out that they obey me, and I've chosen you, so they will obey you. And I'm like, you know what? That sounds like it should work, Dracula.
Yeah.
But that's not often how it works. No. And it's that almost a reminder as well. It's like you're almost being lazy about this. It's not as straightforward as that.
When I heard that line, I was thinking, this is going to lead to like a coup.
It is literally that. You have to. You can't just isolate your generals in this way.
And no general is going to take orders from a human.
Well.
I don't care if Dracula says it.
Yeah. Hector reflects while looking at the fire, and we hear the voice of a woman, his mother and father, filled with disgust for him, basically. So he kind of realizes he had a pretty shitty childhood.
Yep.
And then it seems as though he may have burned his parents alive, from what it sounds like.
That's what I gathered, yeah.
It sounds like he locks the door and then burns it.
But I can sort of understand why his parents were that way. Because obviously, if they...
Well, we will see. Don't want to get ahead, because we will see what he does as a child. But no, Damon, no, you cannot justify.
I was going to.
She uses his mother in this scene uses terms like, I've hated you since the day you came out of me.
I'm going to
There's no justification for that.
I was going to justify it because of the time period. And maybe their religious beliefs, like the Pope, maybe, because of what his ability is.
Yeah, but we don't see that. We only see, when we next see Hector and the flashback, it'll be as a teenager. From what she says, it sounds like she probably talked like a toddler or something like that.
Yeah.
This is hatred. She hated her child. Isaac, though, seems far more focused, because I thought this was interesting, as you get Hector doing that, and you're like, well, clearly he's harbouring that kind of grudge and ill will.
Yeah.
But also, that stuff's redeemable. That's redeemable.
Yes.
Because it's like, that's unfortunate happened to you, but doesn't mean everyone is bad, and so on. Whereas Isaac seems more focused, and says the line, suffering doesn't matter, only death. And I'm like, that's a good line. That is a good line. I love that. By the way, I've got to say, voice actors are brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Elsewhere, it's the morning after the battle in Greshet, and the non-traumatized people are attempting to rebuild having survived the hordes. Love this sort of sunny, cheery music they play, as we see, like, there's a guy sitting on, like that, you know?
And they cut up, like, the dead bodies.
Blood everywhere and all that. It's like, okay, this is very Castlevania. And we see Cypher and Trevor, of course, played by Alejandro Reynoso and Richard Armitage, waving goodbye to the leaving speakers, and it looks as though she's decided to stay as Trevor tries to comfort her. He is the worst at this, and they just end up bickering. Inside the city, Alucard, voiced by James Callis, reflects on his decision to kill his father. He thinks of his mother and who he is, declaring that he'll be his own person. Yeah.
It's good to see, man, drawing the pictures and then crossing their faces out, so that's good.
Yeah, it's an acceptance more than anything else. Almost feels like Alucard doesn't have much of a choice.
Yes.
That's what it does. Trevor and Cypher arrive. Back in the castle, Godbrand comes to see Hector and his demon Forge and apologises for his ranting in the main hall. I like that. Godbrand's like, yeah, you know what? I don't really have a beef with you.
Yep.
It's just a bit frustrating. Because he complains about it being Dracula's war and the overall war strategy of... Basically, the strategy of just carnage, destruction and carnage. He doesn't get it. It isn't what... He wants order. He wants plans. He wants to not just go out there and destroy everything. We've got to do this step by step and so on. Although Hector points out this is exactly what Dracula wants, which just annoys Godbrand some more.
Yeah.
We then see the dead from Gresset being wielded for Hector to work on, and we do see the mangled corpse of the bishop amongst them. Yeah. So now we know what happened to him.
So this is a few times in the episodes it keeps looking at the corpse. So I'm wondering if that corpse is going to be reanimated. I think.
Spoilers.
I wonder because every so often it kept panning towards that body.
It wants you to see the bishop there.
Yeah,
because,
so I'm wondering.
I'm not going to go too far ahead, but yes, you are correct, and it will play a pivotal role because the bishop is a holy man, and that might have a more pivotal role if it was reanimated as a night creature. But yeah. So Hector begins work as Godbrand watches on, and we see Hector's process. He transforms a body into a night creature. You kind of, that's cool, the whole process.
Yep.
But then the room starts to shake. And in just a roundabout way, like, I love this because it seems like it should be a big deal, but it's the matter-of-fact way of Godbrand goes, oh, he's moving the castle again. And you're like, wait, what?
Yep.
But of course, if you're a Castlevania fan, you know this. You know this is an aspect of things. As we then see him teleporting the castle and it arriving in a woods somewhere and the destruction it causes when it re-lands. So it's like, okay, cool.
Makes sense, so you know why Dracula's so hard to find. He can move your castle.
But of course, we also got the impression, bear in mind, when we've gone down the depths of Alucard and the inside of Dracula, is that his advancements in technology, magic and so on, is above anyone's level. It's just a really well done scene. And that wraps up episode number 1, War Council. A nice reintroduction, a catch-up with all the major players, and the slow introduction of new characters that we will continue to get here. I was, again, I'm really sold on this.
22 minutes of...
well, it's a bit longer now. I think they're about 25 minutes.
I mean, 25 minutes of a...
It goes fast, doesn't it?
It does go fast,
Yeah, and again, it looks spectacular. It's voiced brilliantly. If there's any characters that don't really get much here, it's Trevor and Cypher. More than anything else. I think it's similar to the first episode of season 1. This is about, all right, here's Dracula, here's the and here's more vampires. But it also had the difficulty of now having to not just reintroduce the characters, but here's some new ones as well, because they're going to be pivotal to the story.
It's building up to some major battle, man. I can see that at some point,
Of course, it's inevitable, really. Yeah, that's War Council. You got any thoughts that you know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?